So in this video, we are continuing to take a look at how to build full-stack web applications using GPT API. This is a new one I've been working on almost as a practice, and it has a lot of cool features. As you see, it has streaming responses, snapping to the bottom. Tell me more. It's telling a story about FastAPI JavaScript. Anyway, see, it snaps to the bottom, but when you move away, you can scroll away, but it scrolls to the bottom. When you move down, when you first load it, it has this animation showing you that you can actually change its color theme, just like that. I'm asking it to tell us a story about FastAPI and JavaScript so we can see it in different color modes, just like this. We're going to take a look at the code as well. Let me zoom in. There's another cool effect going on. Down here, when you click, it actually does a focus animation. I just like it. It's a nice little touch. There's a button right here that works as well. You cannot send multiple messages. It doesn't accept empty messages, so that's all good. Let's say tell me more. As you see, it scrolls to the bottom, just like that. It's pretty cool. We are also going to talk about how we can deploy it. This app is live at Railway. You can give it a custom domain name with railway.app, or you can connect totally custom your own domain name as well. We're going to look at how to deploy this. Requirements for this is pretty low. OpenAI, TikToken, FastAPI, and Unicorn. We are using TikToken to actually count messages, so we actually keep track of tokens and limit the conversation history. We do keep track of the ongoing conversation. All these files will be available at my Patreon, along with 100 plus other project files, such as the LLM Summarizer app I built. Right here, you can actually visit this app at llmpapers.up.railway.app. It actually automatically summarizes every newest LLM paper that is published in archive every hour. As you see, you can find the paper link as well. I made a video on this. You can actually download the code and host it yourself, change it, make it better. If you are on Patreon, this will actually get you the code files for that. There's both a terminal version and the full stack web app version. I will be building more full stack web apps. That's what I'm going to be focusing on in the future. So please do subscribe if you want to get notified of those. Also, you can visit echohive.live to find all my videos. As you see, this is the latest one with the LLM Summarizer. You can search for Railway and actually find videos on it. This is the video actually that explains how I built this EchoHive website as well. That's deployed at Railway. Anyway, let's go over the features again and take a look at the code. Let's review the code based on features first, and then we'll do a quick overview as well. For example, there are these buttons right here and the flashing animation in the beginning. How can we do this? To achieve this, in my index.html, I added 5 buttons with onClick to call this JavaScript function, setScheme, with numbers. Each one of these numbers, and also I've assigned classes to them. And in my CSS code, I have this color schema. You can, in your CSS, define variables. This is the syntax to do. Maybe I use way more colors than I needed to, but anyway. So I'm defining these 5 different themes, like that. And in the JavaScript code, when those buttons are clicked, setScheme with number is called, and then we remove all the themes from the body's class list. And then whatever schema was selected, we add that to the body tag. Just like that. So then this changes the entire styling of the body, therefore changing all the colors, because these variable colors are used throughout the CSS to actually give colors. For example, the background color of the chat box is the secondary color, and background color of the web toolkit scroll bar is scroll bar track color, just like that. User messages background color is primary color. This is how we are able to achieve this theme change. And to animate this, essentially, we have this add shadow function, which adds a white shadow. That's it. See button.style box shadow. There we are assigning that class CSS class to all of the buttons. And then we are simply just calling them with that by just calling the function. And then that just allows it to, when you refresh, just highlight it real quickly, indicating to the user that they can actually change the theme. Yeah, here is the function to add the shadows. We are setting an interval every 0.2 seconds, 200 milliseconds. We create the shadows, see, add shadow, and then we then reset the buttons, which removes the shadow. As you see, reset button function removes the shadow. We also have the text area event listener for input. This actually sets the input value of the text. So when you can actually send your message by pressing enter or by with the button, but shift allows you to make new lines. So we are allowed to have up to, I believe, 5 or 6 lines, and then this cool little WebKit scroll bar shows up. This function right here takes care of that. See, we have this text area styles defined here for the text area, but as you see, when you click on it, this inset shadow forms up, which is really cool looking in my opinion. To define that, there are pseudo classes such as defined right here, and we are actually defining one for focus. And when the focus is on that element, as in we have clicked in it, then we create a border and a box shadow. So that means it's actually reversed, so it does it to the inside with 15 pixel radius. So when we're here and we have clicked in it, then it creates this nice little shadow. Let's try it here as well. And that is our style, and we're calling it in the text area with the transition box shadow in 1 second with the ease of just regular ease. This ease defines how quickly the animation will take place. So let's get back to our main.py file where we initiate our FastAPI backend server. I just want to say this is actually really easy. This was FastAPI seemed very confusing to me at first, and maybe you're feeling the same way. But it actually is not that difficult. I don't even think that you need this middleware, which is coarse, which allows you to bypass cross-origin requests. You can read up on it, but I just left it there. We are allowing for all origins and methods. This is not recommended for production, but I'll read up more on this. But even if you were to remove this or comment it out, your app should work fine. We have a lot of functions, but these are just like to count tokens, to write messages. We're defining max memory tokens for our message history. We're defining the message file, which we are going to write our conversation history to, which really doesn't do anything, but it's just to keep track of what's going on. The really most important thing is this decorator and the function that comes after it. Okay, this is really our server right here, which is doing the serving. This, we are defining our app up here, right? We say app equals FastAPI. That's it. We are adding the middleware, which might not even be necessary. And then we are doing this decorator with a post method. You probably don't even need this. This can also be a get method, I believe. But we are doing streaming responses, so that's why I'm not sure. I'll read up and explain it better in the future videos. But this is the most important part. This is what's called a route or route. And you are just making a call from the front end to here. You're making your request to this. So this has to match. That's about it. Okay, this is the most important thing. And if you go to our JavaScript file, we are making here asynchronous fetch request to that route. That's it. Okay, we are making a fetch request to that route. As long as these two match, then you have a backend and a front end, pretty much. And we are defining an async function, which is stream, which takes in the request that the JavaScript is making right here. Okay, what JavaScript is doing is that taking the input that the user had put when the user clicks enter or presses this button, then this send gets sent with the fetch request to this function. This function awaits it, gets the data, and then actually uses it to appends it to the user message and makes a call to GPT with stream through, because we are going to stream the responses. We are looping over the generator object. We are initiating a responses string to empty. We receive each one of these responses and then we yield them. Yielding actually returns each one of the chunks of text tokens that we receive from the GPT call and we actually send that with streaming response. Okay, this streaming response, which we are importing from FastAPI, is handling the server, what's called the server-side events. You can read up on it, SSE. And then, because we have defined our OpenAI API call in this def.event stream, defining it under this function, then we are, instead of returning the text, we are actually yielding it. And this general overall function with the decorator is actually returning the streaming response, calling that function, which is the function that makes the call, and that's setting the media type. That's it. Each one of the tokens we receive is going to be sent to the front end. And the rest of the stuff is just some calculations to actually use tick token to calculate the messages and remove the previous messages based on the max memory tokens which we have set, so we can actually keep the conversation, but also limit its size. You can set this to whatever you think is the correct one for you. That is really the crux of the issue. Another thing is that you have to mount your static files. As you see, we have the static folder, which includes our JavaScript, index.html, and style.css, and our main file. The Python file is actually on the main folder, and our requirements. This messages.json is just a conversation history, just to keep track of it. The drop messages will be removed from here as well. But this will be what we will be sending to GPT as a call. So we are mounting right here. So just make sure that when you're doing the mounting, when you do have your static folder, okay, and with your static files, then you do have to mount them. Make sure that you don't set a complicated path, because sometimes this can be like this. Okay, you don't want that. You do set your direct through static and HTML through. That's it. But this has to come after all your major roots paths. Okay, this has to come at the end, pretty much. Otherwise, you're going to run into some errors. And this right here, if name equals main, is just to be able to run it directly if you run this file. Normally speaking, how we start this kind of server is by using Unicorn. You start a command prompt, make sure you're in your right environment. I'm using Conda. Here I'm going to go into Python Web. We can start the server by saying Unicorn main. This, whatever you type here, is the name of your server file. Since this is in main.py file, that's why I'm saying main, and then colon app. This app is what we have defined in the beginning of our server. You see, we say app equals FastAPI. That's it. We can run it like this, but I'm going to say dash reload. So when we say that, it actually launches your server with reload functionality, so that if you make any changes to your main.py file, the server will reload. And when you click, server will start, and it gives you a URL. You can copy paste it or control click it, and it has started it right here in our local machine. And this is should be fully functional right now with streaming responses. There we go. And any change that you make here, for example, if you save this file, as you see, it restarts. We have some print statements to see what's happening. If I save this file, as you see, it restarts the server. Now, if I kill this server, and since we have this, if I actually run this by pressing the play button or call it from my terminal, or as a matter of fact, I can run it with my debugger by clicking F5, or by clicking here, the server will start anyway. And then now we can actually put breakpoints and see what's happening. For example, let's put it right here. Let's bring this here. If we were to say hi, then as you see, as soon as we receive the data, we're going to pause and we can actually execute the code line by line. Let's see what the data is, and data messages hi. See, this is what we have received from the front end. And you can execute it line by line and see if anything's wrong with your code and try to debug it like this. It's very helpful. The reason why we were able to do it, because we have this if name equals main instructions and running the Unicorn like this in line with the host and the port and reload specified. Now we'll talk about the JavaScript as well. The HTML is pretty straightforward. We just have our buttons, our header with, you know what, we'll talk about this. But before doing that, I just want to show you how we can actually deploy apps. Okay, this particular app on Railway. Like I said, all the code files will be available at Patreon. If you're a patron and were to download this code, you can immediately deploy it at Railway. I just want to show you how we can do that. Now, the easiest way to do this, okay, is actually to go to your dashboard. Of course, I'm assuming you do create your Railway account and you do need to have a GitHub and you need to connect your GitHub repo profile ID to Railway. Once you do that, then you can actually create a new project. Okay, there's multiple ways to create a new project. In my older video in which I was talking about the LLM apps, I've shown how to actually deploy it on Railway directly from GitHub. But this time we're actually going to deploy from a template. Okay, click here. Yeah, it just does that. I'm not sure why. We're going to search for FastAPI. Okay, as soon as I click, it says deploy FastAPI. See, it knows my GitHub repository. I'm going to make this a private repository. And then I'm going to say video test. Okay, this is a test. So as soon as I click deploy, it is actually creating a project in my GitHub repository. Let's actually go and see what's going on. Let's go to repositories. And video test has been created. See, it just was created by Railway, and it's actually building. And as you see, there's a bunch of files. There's a main.py file. This is like a little template. Once this deploys, we can actually take a look at it. But what we really want to do is, okay, just copy our files here. That's it. If we were to take a look at this again, remember, our files is the static folder. We do need to set the requirements so that Railway knows to install the packages. And then our main.py file, messages.json, is automatically generated. We don't really even need it. All we have to do is then go to our GitHub and then be in the master branch, right, the main branch, add file, upload files, and find your folder. And I'm going to select static, main, and requirements, and I'm going to just drag it. Okay, you can upload folders too. All the files and folders are there. I'm going to commit these changes, and see, it shows that our application is deployed, but as soon as we've uploaded these files, it has detected that there was a change in the main branch, and now it's building again. You can actually click on your logs and follow it through. As you see, we are doing our pip installs right now. Okay. And once this is deployed, then we will actually be able to see the deploy logs. Now, another important thing is that if you come back here, you do need to define your API key. If you come to main.py, I am actually retrieving it with os.get and OpenAI API key. You can actually securely deploy. Just give your environment, create an OpenAI environment variable. All you have to do is just from your dashboard, go to your project, click on it, go to variables, click on new variable, and then create OpenAI API key, and then paste it right here, and then click add, and then it will actually put in your API key, and then you can actually run it. If you click, look, this is the app. It's working. Since we haven't put our API key in, this is not going to work, but this is the exact same deployment that I've done with this one, and we know that it works. Okay, so this is very easy. Like I said, you can find the code files in my Patreon. Link will be in the description. Now, the reason why I think this is really powerful and I want to make more videos like this is that consider this as a template. Okay, you can have this, you can deploy it, you can use it yourself, or you can add features to it or remove features, and both practice your full stack app building skills and also maybe build a commercial app on top of this. This is a fully deployable app. Okay, if you wanted to, for example, hook up your own, if you have a custom domain name that you've already bought, You can go to settings and just scroll down here, see, and you can go custom domain, and you can just add your domain name right here. And you can also customize to another domain name, but this, unless you hook up your own domain name, then this will always, .up.railway.app will always be there. Okay, you can also see the metrics of usage of CPU, memory, and network. It's very cool. You can right click and fire up a database. I'm actually really interested in MongoDB. I'm going to be making more videos in the future about that. And to delete an app, okay, let's say faulty sofa, just go to settings, danger, and then delete project. And you do have to put this in, and I click delete, and now you'll be able to delete it like that. Let's go back to JavaScript. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's talk about the index.html. So I am importing some font, the Poppins font from Google Fonts. You just have to go to Google Fonts, and then you can find whichever font you like. Let's say it's Montserrat. You can actually select whichever boldness style you like. You can add them, and right here, like Poppins, maybe I can remove all, and now I just have Montserrat, and here is your link, which you will be putting right here, and also your CSS rule style. You would copy this and paste it wherever you need it in your style.css, for example. A common way to define it is in the root or body, okay, or in any one of the classes that you would like to use it in. Here, in this case, I am defining with star the general styles for the entire website, and I am defining the font family here. Other than that, I do have a Google material icon as well. After that, we just have a header and then a chat box div, okay, which gets auto-populated by messages, which is inserted by JavaScript. So this is empty by default. And then a footer where we have our text area for our messages, and our send button, material symbol from Google. And we are linking our script right here and connecting our style sheet right here, the style.css. And in style.css, I'm mostly using just Flexbox. Maybe there's tons of videos on YouTube about how to do all of this, and that's how I learned myself. I'm not going to go into exact CSS rules, but I'll quickly scroll through if you want to pause anytime and take a more detailed look. Now, the really interesting stuff happens in JavaScript. If JavaScript at all, then you know that we have to first retrieve our classes and elements and which classes we want to modify. Here in this case, when we use query selector, we're selecting an element, and we are selecting by ID 3 times. Okay, these are all created right here in the HTML. These are elements. Here in this case, this is a class, and this is the ID. We already talked about the set scheme. We are getting all the buttons. So this is related to shadow. This part is related to expanding the text area when user types in multiple steps in it. It expands to up to a certain point. And then we do add message. This actually receives the message from the send message function and adds it to the HTML like this. This send message function does some checks. For example, reset the height to auto, because as soon as we have typed something and press enter, then actually the chat box resets. It's handling that, and then we're making our fetch requests with post method, and then we are receiving token by token, okay, and then we use the get reader to get that message, and then we read the value out of that. And here, right here, we actually check to see if the user is within 50 pixels at the bottom, and then we scroll to the bottom. And then we get the chunk that we have received from the server. Then we just log it to the console. We add that to the assistant message. And then we call the add message element with the assistant message right here, this one, right? which adds it to add message, which adds it to our HTML document. And we update the existing message element with the new chunk. Then we disable the send button. And if is assistant, and then we set the is assistant responding to false. Because as long as the assistant is responding, then we are not allowed to send a new message. This is an event listener for the button right here. And this one is for the enter key, except if we are holding shift, then we are able to make a new line, and then we are initializing the chat box. So this is it. This was a really fun project. I'll be making more complex projects in the future too. Please let me know in the comments how you're liking these. Like I said, you can visit echohive.live to search for all my videos. If you want to learn more about FastAPI, I have many videos on that. I have built quite a few apps, but I'm getting much better at it. I also have some JavaScript videos. Actually, I made some canvas animation videos that I really like personally. So it's echohive.live. Like I said, all the files will be available at Patreon, and I have a trailer I made for the EchoHive's website. I'll be playing that. There's some music on it. I'm just warning you. I try to keep the music low, but there's going to be some music coming up, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.